Hey everyone, welcome back to another segment of the MCR. My name is TJ, Mac is to my left. Please like, share, and subscribe. We're on multiple platforms. We're on multiple social media sites. So thanks everyone for your support. In this segment, I find myself with a little bit of a moral dilemma. And let's just go back to this last election a couple months ago. And I referenced tribalism.
Right.
In that...
into how people voted. The way
people
they voted.
The bottom line is it didn't matter how cognizant a person was. If they had a D next to their name.
Or an R.
But it didn't matter if the person with the D next to their name was cognizant or not. He got the vote. And I'm thinking of a particular state.
Okay.
To our east. So anyways, and I mentioned tribalism. Well, a particular congressman, and by the time this airs, he will probably be a congressman, though right now, at this moment, he is only congressman-elect. The guy's name is George Santos. And he was able to flip New York's 3rd congressional district to Republican that was previously Democrat.
Do you happen to know for how long it had been Democrat? Is this like a long time Democrat? Territory?
While I can't give you specificity, I have heard that this was a very long-held Democrat seat. Okay. And I gotta wonder if someone did some digging on the guy and attempted... I don't want to say he was blackmailed, but for whatever reason, he was compelled to come out and make some embarrassing admissions. Now, why would someone make an embarrassing admission unless someone tried to say, hey, man, we're going to smear you?
Yeah, unless you're of a saint-like value. Most people don't, hey, Terry, although it's obvious in my case, I eat too much, or I drink too much, or I do such and such. Why would I do that?
Well, and
going to your point,
George Santos admitted he lied about his education, employment history, and Jewish background. Okay?
Shame on him, especially on the Jewish background thing. Because you are who you are. You don't get to decide that.
Because he lied about that, he needs to be investigated by the feds.
And why is that?
Well, there does appear to be...
Are they saying that he committed fraud in some way?
Well...
was that the claim? What's the focus of why he needs to be investigated? Did he break the law in any of these things he did?
Nothing's been proven at this time, though they are wondering how he managed to loan his own campaign with $705,000.
That's odd.
So, but they make it a point to say he's not been charged or right now he's being investigated. And that's where we're at in all of this.
I heard Roman Polanski, who's a piece of garbage, and I have reason to believe he was guilty of what he's been accused of. But he did make a point that in this country, being accused is almost as good as being guilty. Because if there's a retraction, a.k.a. Kyle Rittenhouse, you only know there's been a retraction because there's been a large amount of money given to this young man through a lawsuit. And then the retraction is, by the way, Kyle Rittenhouse, everything we said was a lie about him. He's not a white supremacist. And then they move on.
In his response, George Santos said in an interview, I am not a criminal. He also said to the Post,
I am not a crook.
My sins here are embellishing my resume. I'm sorry.
Well, I would tell you it's a sin, that's for sure, because he seemingly, by his admission, said that I committed a fraud on the people of his district by claiming he was something he was not.
Going to my moral dilemma, I'm compelled to, and I admit to this, resort to tribalism. Hang in there, guy.
Well, here's the thing. If everyone were being investigated, I mean, if Ilhan Omar were being investigated, and to the best of my knowledge, she has never been.
Though she ought to be.
But there's where there's smoke, there's fire. They say, well, you know what? You can't even see her for the smoke. So if they were investigating her as well, I probably wouldn't have as much of a problem. But this is clear targeting of conservatives and Republicans by the United States government in this case, this was a U.S. congressional, not state, right?
Correct.
Okay. So by the federal government is using your dollars to target people for investigation, and it's for political reasons only.
You had that one in the quad, and I forget her name. She married her brother so he could get into the country.
Ilhan Omar.
Yes, yeah. Ilhan Omar.
That's clearly a case, in my mind, clearly a case of fraud.
Actually,
legally, it might be a case of fraud.
We touched on this in a separate segment, but this whole FTX connection to the Dems.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now that's certainly worthy of some investigation. Also,
yeah.
Talk about money laundering, and the money literally went around in a circle from one hand to the other.
Yeah, I know you're
coming full circle.
We part company a little bit on this topic on the Ukraine and Russia. I know you despise Putin and communism, as I do. However, I don't believe it makes Zelensky or Ukraine and the people who want to give them money virtuous. Because I hear from on the ground there, from people on the ground in Ukraine that say they aren't seeing any of this money. So for you even to ask where is this money going, now you're a terrorist.
Well, and again, I come back to my rhetorical question. I'm compelled to resort to tribalism and pull for Representative Santos.
It's a way to fight back.
You know,
you know what? I don't think we have any place in our government for people who are liars and deceivers, which is what I would
you got Pocahontas who deceived her ethnicity.
She did exactly what he did.
Yeah, and you talk about
and she's still saying she's a whatever
high cheekbones.
Yeah,
she still claims she has high cheekbones.
Well, she might, but that doesn't mean she's Native American.
Yeah, but I guess a Republican did some of the stuff that they themselves are guilty of, and only they themselves are allowed to do it.
Yes.
Really. Well, at the end of the story, that's the moral of the story here.
You know this as well as I do. That the left is full of hypocrisy. In fact, there's a whole channel on YouTube called the Liberal Hive Mind. That's where he starts off saying he wants to point out the hypocrisy of the left. Well, there's hypocrisy on the right as well, of course, because we're human beings and we're all sinners. But this guy, he's been forced to admit these because I think
someone got to him.
They doxed him. Well, here's the question.
Clearly, someone got to him.
And now, if he really wanted to keep this hidden, and I don't doubt there was an offer on the table, go our way and this won't come out, a.k.a. blackmail.
Yeah.
Or, as the federal government would call it, the FBI, Department of Justice would call it extortion. Hey, but you know what? It's for the greater good.
Oh, yeah.
So it's okay.
Yeah, really.
So I'll give him this much. By owning up to it, albeit after the election, I would tell you I think he should resign in disgrace, but nobody on the left is going to do that, so I'm all about things being on a level playing field. If you're going to cheat, I don't mean in elections. I'm not saying there was any election fraud. Just to be clear to YouTube and anyone watching this, we are not claiming election fraud. In fact, we're saying the opposite. This guy won, but should he remain in office? He's basically said, I lied about my credentials. I'm not who I am. I'm not even owning up to being Jewish, which I think is disgraceful.
So I found this whole situation interesting. And just another example of Democrat hypocrisy, really, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And that's all I got for this one. And I don't want to see him resign. I want him to hang in there, and hopefully he has the opportunity to stick it in their face.
Yeah.
All right.
And I'm going to start mentioning this more and more often. If you watch to the end, let us know. Tell us anything you think about this video, where we could be better. what you liked, what you didn't like, so on and so forth.
That's all I got.
That's all I got.
And we'll catch you in the next segment. As always, be safe, watch your six, and do not tread on me.